I'm Jitka and I am Czech-born and Bristol-based artist, mostly working in stone and clay, also painting and drawing. I was trained in Brno, which is the second big city, and I was trained as a doctor because my affinity and through all my work has always been towards the human body. And after finishing my medical studies, I became anatomist, so I didn't go for the medical career. And then after I moved to Britain, I've decided to change my career, go for it and become ceramicist, which was passion of mine for quite a long time. So it's a bit of a bumpy ride, but it's all linked to human body, human form, which I love, and I love observing people, love watching people, and it comes through my work, keep sketching them. I also like telling stories, so those are two things which are often part of my work. So if I have to sum it up, my work is figurative, expressive and narrative. So my ceramic work was based around human body, and it runs through almost 20 years of my ceramic career, making vessels which I gradually was making bigger and bigger and bigger, so they're quite a large pieces, and I paint on my vessels and I use them as canvases. And then I was slowly getting into a clay sculpture, experimenting with the 3D shaped bodies, busts, shapes, portraits. So after I've been doing clay for 25 years in Britain, first in London and then in Bristol, I came across stone as a material. And when I started doing it, I was given the tools and a block. I felt from the first moment that this is just amazing. I finished my first piece of stone within about 3 weeks. It took me ages, but you know, it's a learning curve. And after about 3 or 4 years of doing it just as I could, I've decided to enroll and do a proper stonemasonry course at Bath, City of Bath College, which was a fantastic experience for me. It gives me enormous challenge, that's the first. Also, it's almost opposite to clay, because you add to clay, but you take away from stone. So mentally, it's like sort of having a knot on my brain, and that's challenging. Plus, absence of color brings form to the forefront, and that's brilliant because I was slightly slacking off sometimes with forms. Plus, it trains your patience because it takes much longer to do. And I find it like, it's more like a dialogue, you know. Clay does what you want, but stone has got its own mind. The way I work is that I've got a sketchbook with me whenever I go, concerts, different countries, ordinary life, looking from my window, watching dustbin men in the street, anything. So often I do very quick sketches, pen sketches. There are some themes in my work which runs through all the way through my clay and stone career. And one of them is definitely music, because music is something I listen to when I work all the time, classical mostly, but any music. So many of my pieces are music-based. So I've done pianists and cellists and violinists on vessels and in stone. The next line, my other favorite subject, is people doing their jobs. And then, of course, my family, because I sketch my family and I do many pieces about them. The two pieces on the mantelpiece, mermaid type of creatures. One is just leaving the sea and the waves are under her and she feels the earth spinning under her. So it's like a Venus coming out of the sea. The other one is a mermaid, so it's more sort of a fairy tale creature, slightly more poetic and sinister in a way. This piece is called Bird Watcher. We often go down to Somerset to watch the roosting of the starlings. And when you watch the people, often looking against the sun, you know, you see their arms sort of covering their eyes, and in a distance you can see the birds flying. So it's a very stylized sculpture where the bird is placed as in a small form among the fingers of the watching person. So I like the poetic twist you have to do in stone, because I would have to use enormous stone to have a figure and birds in a distance. So this is the way I can fold it together like a paper folding. The stone I use, it has got its own mind or soul. When I approach a piece of stone, the minute I start carving, it's like skinning something or peeling potato, because the beauty of the stone and the purity and the complete cleanness of the stone under the dirty surface is lovely. So if I have quite a big piece of stone and I know that I need to take away quite a lot of stone before I start proper carving, I can use a saw to cut off corners of pieces I know that I definitely wouldn't use, because what I cut off, that's gone. Occasionally, if I use Portland stone, which is a bit harder, I would use a grinder, powered grinder. That's my only powered tool I use. So if I establish the very basic shape, I would start then using a pointed chisel, just a point and a mallet. And that instrument, that tool, makes me to remove quite a chunks of stone, and it works in grooves. So I do grooves of sort of removing the stone, and it chips off the layers. And that will bring in the end a rough shape, which then I know where I am, and I can compare it to my maquette and see what I'm doing. A claw chisel with sort of like a tooth surface, which when you use it on the stone, it makes this beautiful pattern, like sort of combed hair. And with this tool, I work for as long as the whole shape is established. So I actually can see the sculpture with the sort of nice pattern on it before I start smoothing it. At that stage, often I come across flaws and crystals, which I have to I always welcome. I love them because they add a certain poetry and certain twist to what I do. And I was once making a piece of a baker kneading the bread, which I wanted to have the whole body and the arms and the dough and the face. And in the middle of the sculpture was an enormous flaw, big hole, which I was excavating till I got through the stone. And in the end, it ended up just being two arms twisted and a dough and the face. And it was one of my best pieces because the stone directed me to more abstract, simplified, interesting form. After I've been using the claw for some time, when I'm happy with it, when I know that it's the shape I want, I go to the last stage of chiseling, which is using flat chisel. The sculpture is practically finished, but it's kind of dusty, and it's still kind of like covered with veil to some degree. I pour a bucket of water over it, and it just suddenly changes the color. And the last thing I do, I use various grades of sanding paper, and I do it with water, and I keep sanding it till it's as smooth as the baby skin or, beautiful woman skin. And then it shows all the flaws and all the bits which are on it as well. And surprises, like some lady can have under her eyes a little prehistoric snail, just sticking out of the stone. And I think that's a lovely little reminder of where we come from and where we're going to, Touching of the stone is another beautiful sensation because it's so smooth. It's like a flesh. It's like a cool body of the woman. So there is definitely an erotic aspect to stone as well. The finger reader. The piece based on a blind girl reading Braille on a train. I was traveling. So this symbolizes a book. She's reading with her fingers. So most important parts of her body, in my view, were her arms and fingers, and her face, because she couldn't use her eyes. It's been just suggested in a way, and her eyes too. The opening here also symbolizes that they can see, people who can't see with their eyes, they can see with other parts and other ways than we do. The piece has got inscription in Braille, a reader. I had my friend, they've got a blind daughter. She came on the day it was finished to check it. She didn't know anything about the piece, and she read beautifully. She said, reader. I was really pleased that I managed to write it well. Also, there are two discs which were dictated by the stone, because there were those shells present inside the stone, and I've decided to have them like the back eyes or hint eyes, because in my imagination, if you can't see, you've got to see through other senses. So this is tactile eye and the fingers. And this piece is going to be displayed at Temple Meads station during the Festival of Stone, because he has got a link to railway, and also the strength and courage and many things I admired about the real existing girl I depicted in the stone.